Hey guys, this is the first time I'm making this kind of video, so I'll try to make it a series, but we're going to be going over whether or not you should pull for Clotho or not, and I'll give you some alternatives, some comparisons. There's one small caveat that we have to look out for, but I'll separate everything by the timestamps if you want to skip around and take a look. But for those that are watching, we're going to go over the kit first, and then I'll see what to do after. So I'm not going to waste too much time on this. I'm sure you've seen YouTube videos on her already. I haven't made one, but I will still explain the skills a little bit so you understand easily what they do. So usually what you want to do is do normal attacks until you apply Spatial Rift on the enemy, and then you want to trigger that Wind Burst resistance by 20% on the skill. And then once you've done that and you attack, and triggering the burst gives the enemy Dimensional Rift, which just makes it take more damage, is a little bit of a DOT effect, though I don't know if that classifies literally as a damage over time effect, but it does damage over time. Now the special skill, you hold it down once you have applied Spatial Rift, okay? That's a little bit of an important part because it does more damage and gives you more burst. You can see it says additionally applies burst gauge by 50 plus 1% of attack. So a lot of attack is really good. Obviously you can't get attack and wind burst efficiencies together, so you want to go for the wind burst still. But you just have to have a spatial rift applied, and then you can do your special attack and it'll help you do more burst. And then once you've bursted or you have applied spatial rift, you can apply dimensional rift and then remove it with the Storm Slash, which will do some additional damage on top of the 151%. So as it says, when you remove the stack, each inflicts additional damage equal to 50% of attack. So they're guaranteed to be crits, so you also want crit damage on her. I didn't get lucky, as you can see on the weapon, but it's not terrible. The ultimate, you want to have Spatial Rift applied, and then do the ultimate if you want to trigger a burst very quickly. And then if it has Dimensional Rift applied, then it'll do critical damage guaranteed and increases wind damage taken on the enemy by 20%. So overall, very good kit for a burster. Now, if you take a look at her weapon, you have wind attack as a substat. Enchant, you do want to go on the wind because she's a burster, so you want to get the burst roll if you can. If not, it's not a bad idea to go for the beads, regular legendary beads, but I would say go for the elemental. And then I do have a problem with the weapon because you don't get a new passive at level 4, which other weapons give you a new passive. So it does give you wind burst efficiency by 20% and then increases crit damage up to 60% for 14 seconds. So again, that's very good. You'll be doing a lot of crit damage if you decide to build this as a DPS, which you can. It's obviously a burster set, but you can build the rapier as a DPS set if you want. Now moving on to her grimoire. So you can have 3 rune stones and I think a rune ward, each of which gives you cold damage increased by 6%. The damage taken doesn't really matter. So you can see it says rune stone applied max 3 times, and each time you get hit, it heals you 60% of attack plus max HP. And when you do have the rune stones at max 3 times, you get 10% damage increase for cold, and cold attack increases up to 1000. Now here it does say caster's max HP, not the whole team's. So I'm not sure if this means Clotho herself has to have as much HP as possible, and then you get the 1.5%, which wouldn't really make sense. You would need 150,000 HP. So again, it's probably your team, just mistranslation or whatever. It says caster's max HP. And then the normal skill gives you rune. It doesn't give you rune awakening, but if you do have it, it enhances the attack itself. And once you do enough hits, it will freeze the enemy. And you guys know what freeze does. So the ultimate gives you a rune awakening, and this is where the caveat comes in. I think her Engraved set is going to let her have rune awakening either from the special skill or from the normal skill, which if they do, then she's going to be much better than she is now. I really don't like the fact that they don't give you the 3rd Engraved set before it comes out, or a bit while the character is still here. Same with Daisy, Escanor, and now Clotho. We're not getting the 3rd Engraved set probably until next update. But either way, Rune Awakening gives you max stacks of Rune Ward, which is 5 times, different from Runestone, but enhances the Runestone effect to Rune Ward. So if you have Runestone, it'll turn into Rune Ward. And then, when Rune Awakening is removed, you lose your Rune Ward as well. What Rune Ward does gives you more healing based off of your attack and then the HP of the team. But when you do have 5 stacks of Rune Ward, which again is being converted from Runestone, you get cold damage increased by 20% and cold attack increased by 4.5% up to 3000. So that's a lot of freaking cold attack. So the ultimate again is very good for a supporting unit. On the weapon, it doesn't really matter what you have, just make sure you have some attack. If you get HP, that's fine, I guess, but again, she's not really there for DPS, at least not currently, without her Engraved set, so the main thing you're looking for, in my opinion, is going to be attack percent. So that's the Grimoire. Now if you go over the Wind, which is probably your most popular setup, gives you wind damage increased by 25%, when you have Dimensional Wave or Tear using your skills. So Dimensional Wave you get from the normal skill, I'll go over that, but when you're in the zone created by the special attack, it gives you crit chance and crit damage, 20% and 40%, and when you use the skill again, it creates a new one, so you want to extend it as long as you can. So the normal skill creates a zone that it lasts 7.5 seconds, and if you use it twice, then you get Dimensional Tear, which creates the zone that lasts for 10 seconds and then gives you Dimensional Erosion for 10 seconds, which again reduces crit defense. So overall, a pretty good supporting skill for her own kit, but it's more so from here that you get the buffs. So each time you apply Dimensional Wave and Tear, which is basically using the skill 2 times, that will turn into Dimensional Tear, you get about 75% additional wind damage, which is again crazy. So on the right here, if I had normal attack on the crit resistance, this would have been a godly roll, but I decided to leave it because again, gear rolling system just sucks. I really hope they let you lock a roll in the future. But anyway, moving on to the ultimate, you can get Dimensional Awakening for 12 seconds. Now, I don't know if this is considered a buff. I haven't checked it that far yet, but usually blue items do mean a buff. So if it is a buff, you can probably extend this with a buff duration efficiency earring. And if you can, that would still give you a few seconds. And if you get it on the engraved set again, it's going to be very big. So if somebody knows if this is considered a buff, let me know in the comments. And yeah, but it changes how your normal attack works. So I'll show you in a second and we will take a look. So I have her engraved set here. This is pretty good. We have a level 2 passive, level 130, and you have wind attack as a substat for the wand, which again doesn't really make sense that much because you don't have that much wind attack, but normal attack damage 23%. On the engraving bonus, you are looking for normal attack damage and crit damage. Most likely those are the two you're going for, and then something else would be fine. Again, if this is buff duration efficiency, and that counts as a buff, then that's pretty big. This is for the staff, by the way. So Dimensional Awakening increases the duration by 8 seconds, attacking an enemy that or gives dimensional expansion for 20 seconds. Every time you attack an enemy that does have dimensional expansion, gives you up to 30% normal attack damage. So dimensional expansion would be a part of the ultimate because you can't get it without doing Dimensional Awakening first, and you can't get it from any other skill. So it's introduced through the armor set. That's for the wand. And then for the rapier, this is the rapier you get when burst efficiency and crit damage as a subset. Again, a very heavy focus on the crit damage, so you want to crit as much as you can. Engraving bonus, this sucks. You want to go for crit chance, crit damage, and attack percent, most likely. And then, or burst efficiency, there is a all burst efficiency as a substat. And then each ally hit gives you spatial collapse when the enemy has a burst, and then when it does go away, how it does is basically as you're attacking an enemy that doesn't have a wind burst, each attack, doesn't matter, there's no cooldown, then it's going to take away one spatial collapse at a time to give you more burst. So if you do have a higher level, I'm assuming you get more burst. But basically think of it as when you're attacking an enemy that is bursted, you get spatial collapse. When the burst runs out, the spatial collapse also starts running out. But in exchange of that, you do some damage and gives you more burst. I'm not going to go over the builds. That's would be like a build video, but those are the engraved sets. Now, for the potential, I mean, this is more so just getting her once, if it's really important or not. But I'll go over some of them potentials really quickly so you have an understanding what they do if you do want to go for dupes. The potential 5 on the rapier gives you more burst efficiency. The potential 6 resets your skill when you do a wind burst. Potential 7 lowers the enemy crit defense by 40%, which is really big. And then the ultimate does a lot more damage, and then you have wind defense reduced by 2% of their defense to 10 times. Now, if you are a whale, I would just say go to potential 7. That's probably good enough. You have 40% crit defense lowered, which is again very huge. But if you're free to play, I think even 1 would be enough. But again, I'll get to my verdict in a little bit. For the Grimoire, potential 5 gives you more cold damage taken by the enemy, and it increases your normal skill duration by 1.5 seconds. The rune ward effect goes up on potential 6, where the effect will just activate as long as you have 1 stack, so that's pretty good. The potential 7 again here is really big, gives you more rune ward, so more healing, more attack, more damage, whatever. Here you do defense shatter by 15%, and that's when you have all the rune stone or the rune ward. And then potential 10 gives you cold attack by 40%, which is not that great. I mean, it's fine, I guess, but the staff, potential 5 is very good, gives you more crit chance and crit damage. The potential 6 makes it you can't be interrupted by any attack and increases your normal attack damage. Very good. The ultimate now would actually also give you both the dimensional tear and dimensional wave on the enemy, and you do some more damage with the dimensional tear. Potential 9 is where you get a crazy damage boost. You have 45% additional normal attack power, so that stacks on top of all the other places you can get normal attack percent by. And then potential 10 is the nail in the coffin. You get longer duration of potential at 10 for your ultimate, which is the enhanced normal attack, makes you take less damage when you are doing the normal attack, so you don't have to worry about taking damage. And then again, once you do 30 attacks with the normal attack, which is very easy, you get applied Dimensional Wave. So again, just for recap, this is what Dimensional Wave and Dimensional Tear does. Right here, they pull them together, Dimensional Wave and then Dimensional Tear lowers the enemy crit defense while doing some damage. So now that's everything with her kit. Now if I want to do some comparisons, the only comparison I'm going to do is her is going to be the Burster with Tristan, because there's not really other roles of the same type. I mean, there is Elaine, but Elaine as a DPS at potential 4 is better than Clotho at potential 4, okay? You can clear Gallant in about 25 seconds. If you want to see that, I'll link that in the description, but yeah, if you're looking for DPS, Elaine is already better. So now I'm going to show you what I can with the Burst. And again, the ice is kind of uncertain. Depends on what kind of effect they give her on her skill or attack. And then, of course, she could end up to be very busted. So now I'm going to show you some side-by-side of me just trying to burst the enemy as fast as I can. I don't have the engraved sets or any special stats, so Tristan is going to be slower, most likely, but I'll show you anyway. He's a free character, SR. If I show you his potential, we have him at potential 10, but you only need it at potential 5. You get additional burst gauge, and then potential 7 gives you the normal skill. You can use it 2 times. So again, potential 7 is enough compared to potential 10 on fire, where you see the most value. So we're just going to try and burst him. Alright, so that was about 21 seconds without any buffs or anything. Now we're going to do the same thing with Clotho and see if she can burst. Alright, so that would basically be about 26 seconds. And as you can see, I didn't do anything special for either. So Tristan does burst faster and he has a better skill rotation. Also gives you bleeding, where if you have Hauser, you can apply the bleeding and do some damage and it will lower the crit defense. So a certain team you can use would be something like this. Instead of Escanor, you have Hauser with his engraved set, and then you would use Clotho as the DPS. I don't think she's going to be better than Tristan on the burst, and she's not going to be better than Elaine on the burst either, or in the damage. Now let's talk mechanics overall, just how fun she is to play. I'll show you some of the kit stuff. I mean, we're not going to do enemies, just to show you the skills. She, I think, is actually a lot of fun, except this part. I wish you could move around. I don't know why you're stuck in place, but that's the normal skill, and then that's for the rapier. I mean, I can show you my ultimate, but again, you probably have seen it by now. We have the Grimoire. I also like the attacks a little bit. You can stay far away, so that's kind of nice. And then this is your Rune Ward skill, I believe. Runestone gives you more attack and cool damage. And then when you have that, you have this big skill. So again, I think she's a lot of fun. And the last but not least, I do have to get my ultimate to show you this. Let's see if I can get it. Alright, so once I do the ultimate, I'm sure you guys know how it works by now. You can just hold this down, your normal attack, and you can actually rotate and move around, which is really nice compared to the rapier, which you can't. And again, this cancels a buff, so I think you can increase this duration with buff duration efficiency. So that might be actually pretty meta. I'll test that in another video, but let's see. Yeah, I mean, overall, her kit is very fun, especially on the wand. Now we're going to get to the part of the verdict of the video, or whether or not you should pull for her. Now, should you pull for her, I will make some arguments for both sides, and then you guys can decide on your own whether or not you think she's worth pulling. In terms of mechanics, she's very fun, flexible, kind of fun to move around. Although her adventure skill is pretty dang lame. Like, what is this? Who's going to use this? If this was like something you could put it down and it would stay for the whole map and you can come back and you can teleport to it, that would be a lot of fun. But that's something they missed out on. But in terms of mechanics, if you like characters that can do unique things, she's a lot more fun than Daisy, in my opinion. And then if you don't have Elaine, you could consider getting her for your Wind DPS, or if you don't have Drake. So if you don't have Drake or Elaine and you don't have SSR selector, I would say probably just go for it, because again, you're going to need Wind or Lightning to clear Time Space Junction Section 3, and then probably for something in 4, 5, 6 as well. So yeah, if you're in need of a DPS, I would suggest pull her, and if you don't have those other 2 units. If you need burst, again, try to use Tristan with his Engraved set. He's very good. I didn't have any buffs, and he still beat out. Like, I don't have the gear set, I don't have anything. He still beat out Clotho by a good margin. And you want to be spending less time on bursting and more time on actually doing damage. So 5 seconds is quite a big deal, especially compared to a free unit that you can probably have upgraded by now. And then the biggest reason I would say don't pull for her is because we had Escanor within the last couple of weeks, right? Last week or so. And if you pull for him, I'm sure you're pretty dry from that. And then we most likely know that Merlin is going to be coming next. And so when she does come, then you're not going to have enough pulls to actually get her. And I think Merlin might be a better unit than her because of the backlash, right, we had with Escanor, where he turned out to be pretty underwhelming. And well, not to my opinion. I think he's pretty good, but people were saying he's very underwhelming, so they don't want to repeat that with Merlin. And so I think they'll make her very good. And she's fire, she's lightning, and she's ice. So the reason I do want to say you could skip her for Merlin is because even though we don't know what the ice Engraved set does, here is more about healing, right? She does give you cold damage and cold attack, which is great. But also most of it comes down to healing, because you can do enough damage and survive. But if you need a healer, Deanne's healing and Tiori's healing are also really good, so you can rely on that. But Merlin, I think she's either going to be a support or some sort of DPS on ice, and so instead of Clotho, consider pulling Merlin, and then you can slot her into the lightning team as well, because we're missing kind of units for the lightning team. And then fire, I think she might be a fire DPS, I'm not even going to lie to you, but whatever happens, I think Merlin's going to be a better unit. So if you haven't pulled for her and you're wondering if you should, my verdict is no. If you enjoy how she plays, if you like her design, which I do, I didn't show her cosmetics. But this skin right here is incredible, dude. I wish I could buy this, but I cannot justify a $60 costume price. But yeah, overall, very great unit as a design, but I don't think she's worth pulling over Merlin. So let me know if you enjoyed this kind of video. If you're not subscribed and you made it all the way to that, please consider subscribing. We're almost at 1,000. I really try to make this video as helpful as I could. And if you're interested in 2 other games I'll be covering in the future, I'll leave that on the right side of the screen. Go ahead and take a look at whichever one interests you. Thank you guys.